I'm Keith Cosentino, he's Shane Jacks, and this is the PDR College Podcast. We are going to teach everything you want to know about the PDR business. We're going to teach a lot of stuff that you didn't know you wanted to know, but I promise you will be glad that you know it after the fact. We're going to talk about tools, techniques. We're going to talk mostly about the business of PDR. Why is that, Shane?
Because there's two colors that women love, green and gold. Green because it's the color of money, and gold because it's the color of gold, Keith.
That is the truth. Truth coming out of you, my friend, all the time.
That's right.
If you want the truth, ask Shane. You're going to get it.
If it's not the truth, it is the truth according to Shane, which is the truth. Now chew on that for a minute.
It's the truth, and you just don't understand it yet.
That's right. Haven't been enlightened yet. But that's what we're here for, to enlighten folks on the truth.
Truth about the business of PDR.
That's right.
How's it been for you lately?
Great, man. We are busy down here at this shop in Greenville, South Carolina. Doing a lot of retail work. That's picking back up. And the wholesale work is like it always is. Very busy. Once you, on the retail side and the hotel. What is a hotel?
Motel, Holiday Inn.
On either side, however you work it on the in PDR. If you do it well, you treat your customers right, what happens, Keith?
You make the money.
The money.
Opulence. There he has it.
Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well, too. We've been jamming. Busy. More and more leads from the website all the time.
That is awesome.
I added them up the other day. I think we had 10 in a week, which, as far as some giant websites go, probably an utter failure. But for me and two other technicians, that's pretty good workflow. Because we close about 70-80% of those rascals.
Nice. Very nice.
Especially when they fill that whole little form out with their address.
Yes, which is something that I need to get on my website. We spoke about it last week.
We sure
Keith, did. And I'm in the process of getting that. I've got this guy that I've asked to send the form to me, and he hasn't done so yet. His name is Keith.
Well, I have delegated that to my web developer, and he is on it.
Okay, all right. You're a delegator.
The more I can be, the better.
Yes, sir.
I would have somebody doing this recording for me if I could.
Yes, sir.
I would be hanging out with my feet up.
Your feet are up right now.
No. They're down.
All right. Let's get into the meat of this thing.
What are we talking about tonight?
Ready to talk about business.
So last week we talked about how to get more retail business, which was a topic we came to because a million people ask us that question all the time. Man, how do I get more retail business? And just like you were saying, not just dent repair guys, it's paint touch-up guys, it's bumper guys. Heck, it's even painters and carpet cleaners. They're asking me the same things.
Yeah, I've never had a painter or a carpet cleaner ask me, so you're beating me there.
Well, you never had them come and paint your 10,000 square foot house.
True. I have had them come and paint my 12,000 square foot house, though.
Well, you never heard the question because they presented it to your groundskeeper.
That's it. That is
How does Shane get so much business? No one's allowed to talk to Shane.
Hey, opulence.
Hey, how's it?
Yeah, how's it?
So anyways, we talked about that last week about how to get more retail business. So we are going to assume this week that you have put it into motion. You are getting more retail business. And now what the heck do you do with these people when they're calling? Or
you get mad at them.
Yell at them. Tell these are my dang prices, and I don't budge.
That's the way people from South Carolina would handle the situation. How do people in California handle that?
Oh, man. Thankfully, a lot of them handle it the same way.
Yes, most do.
And you know why? there's a book by a guy named Gerber, and it's called The E-Myth, The Entrepreneurial Myth.
Yep.
It's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, please read it. But he talks about what he calls the E-Myth is that you are not an entrepreneur. You are what he describes a technician suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure. Meaning you know the thing. You know the PDR, or you know dental hygiene, or whatever the thing is, and you think, hey, I know the thing. I am going to go into business doing the thing because I know the thing better than anybody. Heck, I am the expert at the thing. So they open a business, but you know nothing about the business. All you know is the thing. And you pull it off for a while, but then the business starts demanding more and more of your time and attention and decisions, and you just flat out don't have the capacity to make those decisions in a way that would benefit the business. And you either go crazy because you can't handle everything, or you go out of business.
Well, we're raised, and I've said it to people before also, Keith, we are raised to believe that as long as you do a good job, if you're good at what you do, you will never be hungry. And that is truth to a certain extent, correct?
Yeah, absolutely true.
But
yeah,
then it gets to the point where you're talking about and can't handle the success, can't handle the demand. I've had a lot of people in my family in businesses that have gotten to that point and didn't know what to do with it.
No, or you'll never get out of the normal day in, day out of 8 or 9 hour days, and you work most of it, and you take a long lunch because it's slow, and you just think, well, the economy is real bad, or whatever these lame excuses people come up with. It's my worst. Gets me so freaking upset when I hear people complain about the economy in a business like mine. The economy? You're one dude in a town, and there's people that are buying Bentleys and having $200 dinners, and you're telling me you can't find 3 of them a day to fix their cars. Get lost, the economy. It's freaking nonsense. I buy the economy from my friends who were contractors, who are maybe lenders, or like any kind of business that affects a big, giant range of people consistently. And like the housing market drops, those guys took a wash. But for dent repair or ice cream trucks, can it? Economy, it means you suck at business. That's what that means.
Yep. I used to wouldn't agree with you. How'd you like that? Used to. Used to wouldn't. That's good
wouldn't
stuff
have.
right there.
Used to wouldn't have.
Used to wouldn't have. Used to wouldn't have believed Keith on that, but it's truth. It is definite truth, people. It's the more I listen to this guy and learn from him, the better off I am. Up until 4 months ago.
Well, there's two places that is not true on the earth, actually.
What's not true?
That there's excuses about the economy that hold water. The one place that the economy will affect your business is the North Pole. They only do business there a couple days a year, and Temecula.
Temecula, okay.
Yeah. The economy's always bad in Temecula. I have it from a really strong source who's got his finger on the pulse of Temecula, and he has told me. I mean, people are basically turning into zombies just because it's easier to find food. That is the truth. Some of them have they've even eaten the leather out of their AMGs just to stay alive. It's tragic down there.
It is. Temecula's
bad.
It
is terrible. I mean, you've got $1 million homes that are selling for $250,000.
Yeah.
These poor people. I'm thinking about doing a food drive for them.
Down in Temecula?
No, I won't go there. That's crazy.
That's
up here.
Great. Yeah. Oh, no, not in Temecula.
No,
yeah,
of course not.
You're right. Zombies will tend to eat you.
But there is a surplus of avocados.
In Temecula?
They actually do. It's like a barter system, and you can pay with avocados. You don't even have to say anything. You can say it's $50, and they can bring a couple bags of avocados, and you can't say anything about it. You have to take them.
Nice.
Well,
I like guacamole.
Yeah, for the first 200 bags you get.
Yeah. All right,
we're
enough
off on a
about
tangent.
Temecula.
You're off on a
Yeah.
tangent like I like to do. You start talking about economies and Temecula, and I get excited.
How many
But
of
we're
you guys
talking-
did we just lose?
Come back.
Please come back.
Come back. We're going to teach you something.
Eventually.
So we're talking about what to do with these people when they land on you. Now, we talked about getting books from high-level coaches, world-class coaches, one of them being Zig Ziglar, and I talked about it before. I learned a lot of what I know about selling from Zig Ziglar. So a lot of this stuff goes hand in hand with what he's going to teach you. So if you still haven't done it, get yourself an audiobook. Quit listening to music during the day and start pretending like you care about how well you do at work, and listen to some audiobooks about learning how to sell. I have made more money with those techniques than any freaking tool I've ever held or any training that anyone's ever given me on dent repair skills. By far. I mean, not even close to a comparison. What other skill can you have that you can double the repair cost on a normal repair?
Oh,
Double your
there
revenue.
isn't one unless you're really good at putting the dents in the vehicles without the customer seeing it, and then
Robbing them or something.
pointing them to the dent that you just put in the car.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
You leave so much money on the table if you can't sell and if you don't know how to ask questions. And that's what selling comes down to, really, is asking questions. But we talked about that a lot already. I could talk about that for 5 hours straight and still not get everything out that I know and that I feel. But today, like I said, let's talk about what to do once you get them on the phone. So I think we talked about it a little bit before. The first thing that I like to do, the first thing I tell my guys to do, is to create a phone script. And if you've never heard that term, you don't know what it is, it sounds weird or crazy or whatever, but you got to know what you're going to say. You got to know what you're going to say. And if you've been doing this for a couple of years, you've talked to enough people, you should have a pretty good idea of what to say. But
And Keith, I'm going to interrupt you really briefly here.
please do.
That kind of goes back to the E-Myth thing. Having that
You're,
script.
no, you're exactly right. So the E-Myth,
Yeah.
what Shane's talking about is the premise of the book. You should read it because I'm just paraphrasing. But what he wants you to do to break out of this E-Myth is to create a set of systems that every part of your business has to adhere to. The way you answer the phone, the way you open the doors, the way you everything, everything you do, move, say, or try has a system, and you write all those systems down, and then you break those individual tasks into positions: a salesperson, secretary, technician, whatever you call them, and you make job descriptions for each business or for each position, and then at the beginning you fill every single job description. But the idea is that if you actually went to the trouble of writing down all the job descriptions, at some point when you get more successful, you can plug people into those positions, and you have a clear defined role for them and what they're going to do, and eventually you can plug someone into every position and plug yourself into a yacht.
With the rich smell of teak wood in the background.
Man, I want to smell that teak.
Yes.
You know what, though? I don't even care about going in the ocean. I just want to hang out on a yacht. I could get a sweet
yacht.
deal on a yacht without a motor, because those motors are huge and expensive.
very
And all I would need is a plug into that big old yellow plug, and I could just hang out on that thing.
Yeah,
Man, I would like that.
you're pretty lame.
Well, yeah. You think I'm lame till I have my yacht. You don't know it doesn't run. It's like a salvage title yacht.
I'll know it won't run when I tell you to take me in the ocean with it. No, let me rephrase that. I will know it won't run when I ask you to race my yacht.
The boat that I'm talking about, you don't drive yourself.
I didn't say I was going to race it.
All right.
The captain's going to race
Our
it for you.
captain's race.
Yeah, our captain's race.
I love that image.
My captain's actually going to be a pirate.
And dang it, you're dragging me off topic today. I was just going to make a comment
Let's get
about
back on.
making I mean, we were going to make right turns only so your guy couldn't see.
What?
He has an eye patch.
Oh, I got you.
And he can't spin that wheel because he got a hook hand.
What about the peg leg? You got to get us something.
I don't think you use feet.
Yeah.
I haven't driven a yacht for years. Anyways, let's talk about, you know what, I put this all down in writing a couple years ago because I wanted to capture everything that I did, and I thought, I was reading that E-Myth book, and I thought I need to put everything that I do down. And I didn't do it to the level that Gerber would suggest, but I did write it all down. So I've got some notes about some of the stuff I do, and we'll just go through it step by step. So one of the things I like to tell my guys when I'm training them is you got to know who your customers are, and you got to know what you do. So,
anybody with a car?
No, not true. It is not anybody with a car. There are people who are broke with cars. There are people who have nice cars who don't care what they look like.
Man, I failed the test.
Anybody with dents and money?
Anybody with dents and money?
Negative. They don't care.
I failed again.
They don't care about that stuff. You got to find the people that care. These are the image people. And when they, generally speaking, they're the way they dress and the way they keep their car, the way they keep their yards, their houses, it's all congruent. Everything looks nice. You're not going to pull up to a house and find a bunch of garbage on the porch and then think they're going to sweat over a nickel-sized dent in the car. It doesn't jive. So you got to know who your people are. They're generally affluent people who like to keep their things nice and clean. And then these are not super set in stone rules. There's always exceptions because no two people are alike, and I've done plenty of dents for sloppy, gross people. But generally,
Rednecks with trucks.
I don't do a lot of red.
No, I'm giving you another exception to the rule. Around here, rednecks with trucks that live in single wide trailers.
So let's first take a look at what type of service we are providing for these people. You're going to say we fix cars.
We're fixing cars.
No. So here's what we're not doing: fixing cars. The cars are perfect. They're fine. They run. They drive. They get you around. Everything works. The window goes up and down. Nothing's wrong with it. They just don't like the way it looks. That's it.
It's an image thing. That's it. No more.
That's all it is. And once in a while you'll get one where the window doesn't roll down. And we work on those too. Trust me, we do a lot of that stuff. But it isn't the same. It isn't the same guy. One of the things that compelled me to put all this down was a lot of my friends in the industry who were plenty qualified as technicians were having trouble understanding where they fit, where their service fits in relation to a body shop, a traditional body shop, and they would complain a lot to me, like, well, the body shop can paint it for X, and there's no way I could be this expensive and stuff like that. But we are nothing like a body shop. We work on the body, but that's where the similarities end. So
huge differences.
When you
the
differences
are
to
massive, and you have to explain that to the customer, because oftentimes they don't. I mean, they understand it and they know, but it's not coming to the forefront of their mind. So what are some of those things that you've got to teach them? Did you have to educate the customer on as far as the difference between you and a body shop?
Well, first of all, you got to remember that some people do know what you do, or at least they know what you claim, and they're coming to you and not a body shop. So when you take on the role, as soon as you get them on the phone, of the fact that you're competing with a body shop, even before they've said anything about body shop, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
In a disadvantage, yep.
Right. You've got to assume you've got them on the phone already. They've called you. Until they say what's different between you and a body shop or something like that, you own that conversation. You dictate the reality now. You tell them what's going on with their car and how you're going to repair it. And if you want to educate them on what a body shop does, that's good business. I do it all the time. But don't assume that you're playing in a game of Indian bingo or whatever the heck that is when you put the card up and you don't know what the other guy's card is, or you know what theirs is but they don't know what yours is. You're not up against this body shop in a.
They didn't call a body shop. They called us. They called the
correct.
PDR guy. Well, Bobby Ray down the street will paint this for that, so.
Right. No, and that happens. You know what? For the first time, I thought, I bet the body shops hear more of this than we do. Well, Shane says he'd fix it for $300.
Those body shops are still open somehow, huh?
Why are you $10,000?
Yeah.
So, anyways, when I'm saying earlier we don't fix cars, then the question is, what do you do?
You make people happy.
Easy as can be. And that's like so simple, right? I make people happy. What does it mean? Some guys are listening right now saying that's nonsense. I fix dents. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. I'm fixing the dents. But all you're trying to do is make this person happy. The car isn't broken. It still runs, still drives. It doesn't need anything. They just don't like something about it, and they want you to make them feel happy again.
Does the dent have to be absolutely perfectly repaired when you are done with it?
No, it does not.
Why?
Certainly,
What if you're a butthole as a salesperson, and the customer he sees the dent, he or she sees the dent, and you fix it to a 90% level, and you go out with an attitude, throw them the keys, tell them, "Hey, you done, Bob." What's the difference in that and you selling that thing at 90% with an attitude like you have, Keith? Is there any difference in it? Are they going to accept that repair any better from somebody like you than from somebody like Shane 2 years ago?
Yeah, they absolutely are. And here's why. Just like I said a few minutes ago, they are looking to you as the expert to define the reality of the situation for them. And some people will have a hard time believing that when I say that, but trust me, it's true. When you call a plumber or an HVAC guy or someone out to do a service for you that you don't know anything about, and he says, "Well, problem here is we've got to lube up all these louver hinges." You don't know what he's talking about, but
Lube up a louver hinge. That is the first time I've ever heard those three words together.
That's because I've never serviced your AC unit.
That is awesome.
But the fact of the matter is he's setting the reality. He's telling you what the conditions are. And I'm not saying to lie. I don't know anything about HVAC repairs. But when a guy comes out and knows what he's talking about and presents himself as such, and he says, "This is what we got to do, and here's why we have to do it. And, this amount of XYZ is acceptable. You're going to have that, but everything's fixed." I say, okay, it sounds good. If the guy seems trustworthy and he's treating me nice, then that's the reality. So when they ask you, how does it look or how did it come out, your first response is not 90%. It's all right. Your first response is,
"I ain't happy at all."
Yeah. Your first response is, "It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Have a look at this." And 9 times out of 10, if not more than that, they love it right along with you. Even if you still see some imperfections, which you almost always do. I mean, I try to do a perfect repair all the time, but the fact of the matter is people are throwing such random stuff at you all the time. It's really tough to make it all perfect all the time and efficiently move on to the next job.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, right. So as long as I make them happy, we're good, man. We're in business. I got to make a deal with one person, and that's the guy who has the money and the keys. And once he's happy, I'm happy, and that's it. So if we're just making people happy, what kind of people? Before we talked a little bit about what type of people being, they're being clean cut and people with a few bucks in their pocket. But let's start with my experience. What type of people you're looking for. I'm going to start with what you can pretty much forget about. Like we talked about last podcast with how to get more retail business and which businesses to don't bother spending your time trying to network with. This is kind of the same type of list. These are the people that are basically wasting your time when you call. And you tell me if you agree with this list, Shane.
Okay.
People under the age of 25.
I would even go under the age of 30.
I wouldn't argue with that. And here's why. Think back to the part of your life when you were, 20 to 27. Some of us got out of the gates early and went to work hard, but generally you're goofing around, you're in college, or you're chasing after girls or guys, if some of you guys down in Temecula. But you're screwing around. You're not taking anything serious. So you don't have money.
Yep.
You might care about your car, but you don't have the dough. And this is a luxury service. This is not a necessity. So these people have no dough. Leave them alone.
Yep.
There's always exceptions, right?
Oh, yeah. There are exceptions to every rule. But
yes.
Man, it's in my experience, Keith, my typical perfect customer is going to be in their early to mid 40s.
I agree.
That's where my bread and butter is. If I were to have to narrow it down to one demographic, I'm not going to narrow it down to one demographic, but one age group. It's going to be 40 to 45.
Yeah. And if I had to get that narrow, I'd probably be the same, but I sure like people from 35 to 65.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's pretty broad, but I do a lot of old timers out here, their work. We've got these big retirement communities that are called Sun Cities. I think they're all over the country, but they're huge. There's like 5,000 homes in them, and you have to be over 55 to live in there, and they're not cheap. They're not very opulent, but they're not cheap either. So you have a really nice group of people in there who are right down my alley, and they smash into stuff all the time. All right, so we got an age group. Dogs. Now what? Money. They need to have some of it before they can spend some.
How much?
Ooh, well, I've never had a formal survey done, but being around these people for enough years and being in their homes, having conversations with them, some of them really candid about their businesses and things like that. My educated guess is median income somewhere around $115,000.
Household income?
Yes.
I would say mine is well below that, around 75 to 85.
That's commensurate with the difference in living costs, though.
Right, correct.
So it's probably a similar customer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's probably a similar customer, but the differences in cost of living would be, and I'm really kind of pimping your beliefs that you've tried to instill in me for the last 2.5, 3 years. Money is money, and $75,000 here is the same as $115,000 there. You've got plenty of customers there. I've got plenty of customers here. The cars cost the same. They're all buying C, E, S-class Mercedes, and they all have dents that they need to be fixed.
Yeah, and I think I referenced that before in one of our earlier episodes, but that's always the argument I fall back on when somebody tells me it's different here.
That's a good one too, because
there's nothing around it.
Yeah, there's no way around it. When you hit me with that last or 2 years ago, whatever, the more you're around me, you guys will understand. Keith knows this. I am very, very rarely at a loss for words. Very rarely. But when he hit me with that, complete silence.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, it's just the God's honest truth. That's the car costs the same amount, and people are still buying them. So there's no reason the repair has any difference in the value to one guy and another. I just spent $115,000 on this car. This guy says he can make it perfect again without painting it for $300. Sounds like a good deal. And BTW, I haven't brought this up before, but real high-end cars, the people have money, obviously, or sometimes it's a charade, but usually they have some money. Their insurance deductibles are usually very high.
Yes, because they have money.
Yeah, you would think it the opposite, right? They could afford a policy with a zero deductible, and I'm sure they could, but they know that's a waste of money because the odds are you're not going to make a claim. So they leave it at $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000. Why? Because they can cut a check if they need to.
Odds are they're not going to need it.
Right.
Yep.
You have a $5,000 deductible for for Chicken Lips, Arkansas, and you're bankrupt when you smash your car. It's over with. But I mean, there was a customer. I didn't do PDR work for this guy because the truck was too far gone. He was at a body shop, but they were asking me about it because he had a $10,000 deductible.
Wow.
And he I hope this dude doesn't listen to the podcast. He stepped on, it was like a brand new Chevy full-size truck, and he's like a rancher kind of guy, and he stepped on the gas instead of the brake, and he literally put this thing through a barn. He drove it right through a barn.
It's got $10,000 worth of damage. What are you supposed to do to it, Keith?
Well, no, it had, just about $10,000. So they were trying to get around making a claim. So it was the roof. They were wondering if I could fix the roof without having to cut the roof off the thing.
Okay.
I don't think I ended up doing it. I think they I don't know what they did to it. I didn't touch it though. So we talk about, a lot of money, and then a lot of people complain to me like, well, that's the problem. Nobody around here makes that kind of money, and my response to that is, if you're right, move.
There you go.
You're in the wrong business. And you're selling a luxury item to people who are broke. You got to have some logic if you're going to go into business. So usually the people who tell me that are wrong. There are people there. But if you're right, if you're the one guy who knows everybody in your town, and you know how to look at all the right reports and see what the income levels are there, and no one has any money, then if you want to stay in PDR, honestly, I'm not joking, you need to move somewhere else where there's more people and there's more money. And you'll do well. This is a very lucrative business to be in. It's fantastic. We have no inventory, hardly any overhead, hardly any receivables. And if you do it right, you just have buckets full of cash all the time. But you got to be in the right place for that. You got to be in a place where you got to go fishing where there's fish,
and understand how to fish.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not going to hook jewelry on a hook and catch anything but Real Housewives of Northern California. You're not going to catch fish. So, you got to move to the right place. So how to determine if you're in the right town or not, and you think there's no money, look around for the dealers. This is my favorite trick. Is there a Mercedes? Is there a BMW? Is there a Jag? Is there a Land Rover? Is there a Porsche dealer within driving distance to you, like, normal day-to-day commute driving distance? If those things or some of them are around, you're in a good spot. Money. There's money there. These guys these are 10 or 15 or $20 million endeavors, each one of these buildings. They're not going to plop them down there without doing some research, much more than you're going to do. And if they're going to spend that kind of money to put that dealership there, the money's there. The people are there. So don't tell me they're not. You just are doing a bad job of finding them, which is good because you can change it. Everything about that you can change. You can't change Chicken Lips, Arkansas into San Francisco, California. That's not going to happen. But you can change your crappy marketing into something fantastic and pull those customers out of the woodwork that were hiding there the whole time. And that's exciting to me, honestly. I mean, that's something about this business that's really exciting to me. You've got the ability to be the architect of how this system works. You can change anything you want. You want to put up 3 different websites tomorrow, you can do it. You want to change your phone number, change your pitch, change your pricing, you can change anything you want. To me, that's empowering. To other guys, I guess that's stressful.
Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why a lot of guys end up in the wholesale side of the business, and they wonder, how do I get more retail?
And then they don't listen.
No, they don't. But you're listening, taking notes, and you are going to make more money. I can guarantee it. I can promise it.
Yes, you are.
If I could reach through this podcast and shake your hand, I'd do it and look you in the eye and tell you, I guarantee you, if you do what I'm telling you to do, your retail business will grow.
I'm a testament to that.
Yeah, it's the truth. And you know what? Shane and I are batting around the idea of in the next couple of episodes of just laying everything about our finances on the table and showing you guys what we do and what's possible. I think we'd probably surprise a few of you. So you stay tuned if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So let's talk about the cars. We got the people, we got the income, we got the place. What about the cars, Shane?
What about them?
Tell me what kind of cars are crap.
Cars that have dents in them.
No, what kind of cars are crap? What kind of cars make you run away?
Anything completely run away over 10 years old. If it's in that 6 to 10 range, it's kind of iffy. Anything in the 6 year, 5, 6 year and newer range, 5, 6, 7 year and newer, yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Disclaimer on exotics and classics.
Right, those can be as old as dirt.
And please keep your exotic and exotics. I'm fine. Keep your classic cars. I don't want to do them. They are. We might disagree here, but these are loser jobs more often than not, and not because you can't get the money, but because if you're going to do it right, you're going to put so much time and effort into this thing, and you have the unknown of how much body filler is underneath it, what kind of paint, how old is it. When you tear this thing open, are you going to find a bunch of Velcro and wing nuts? What? It's just a mess.
Well, we're not going to disagree on it, honestly. The reasons that you're telling me right now, yeah, that makes me run away. If Joe Blow down the street has a 32 Ford, and I don't know Joe Blow, and I don't know what that car's been through, I'm not going to touch it. But here in Greenville, I have two top, really, really, really high-level builders that are, $250,000, $500,000 cars all the time, and I know exactly what I'm running into when I go to their shops when they call me, because they know exactly what's in the car. So we don't disagree on that at all. I know you know that I do a few classic cars every now and then, but that is the only reason I do it, is because I know what's going on in these cars. The builder tells me what's going on in them, so we don't disagree there.
It gets so easy and it gets so difficult for some guys. It gets me excited when people will listen, and it gets me frustrated when they won't. You know? Yeah.
But I've found that most of the time, and I don't understand. I did the same thing, Keith, when you were telling me a few years ago, chasing hell, which I still do. But Keith posed this question to me. He said, "Why do you chase hell?" What was my answer, Keith?
The money.
Yeah, but I said I can't make the kind of money you make. I believe that was my... And people, man, did I get a tongue lashing. So I am that guy, Keith. I am that guy that you don't understand, that will not listen. But anyway, sorry for interjecting that, but I'm bashing myself for not listening to you over and over, because I completely believe in what he's telling you here. I completely believe in it. So that's why I keep bashing myself for things I've done in the past that Keith has tried to set me straight on and haven't listened. So
you've spun it around.
Yes,
you're doing pretty well. And you know what? I'm still tweaking my stuff all the time. It's not like I figured out a magic formula and I just set it and left it. That is true to an extent. I haven't made a lot of major adjustments to what I do, but I'm always looking to tweak it. Always. I'm looking to tweak what I say, tweak my copy on my website, or tweak my phone script a little bit. I'm looking to get better all the time, because I don't think I've got it all figured out. I got a really good starting point, and I'm ahead of most of my competition, but I know there's room to grow. And it's that attitude that got me to this place in the first place, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So what is this phone script? Run us through some of that, Keith, that you do pricing wise. Let's hit that, or do you want to start earlier than that?
Well, it's interesting you ask about the pricing on the phone, because I will try to leave the pricing to the smallest part of this phone conversation. Mm-hmm. It isn't that important. You're going to talk about it, but people start off. I had one just the other day. Let's talk about this phone call I had. The guy called me and said, "Hey, how much does it cost to fix a small dent?" Okay, that's a question you're going to get almost all the time from a random phone call, and you can choose to answer that question directly. Well, it costs about X to fix a small dent. And then they're either going to just bail right there because you've said something that doesn't make sense to them, or they're going to say, "Okay, sounds good," and then you're going to go further into the conversation. But all you've done is either give a chance to scare them off or paint yourself into a corner. Okay? So don't talk about the price right away. So here's what I say. If you were to ask me, hey, how much is it to fix a dent? First of all, let me take a step back. When I answer the phone, I don't say, hello, which seems little, right? Some people do this, though. They're answering a business phone, and they say hello. Mm-hmm. And then what does everybody else say? Hey, is
this Bullseye?
Yeah.
PDR?
Right. So I say Bullseye, which is the name of my company. Bullseye, this is Keith speaking. Now, I've got the name of the company out of the way. They know they've called the right place if they were trying to reach me, and they know who they're speaking to. This is a big deal because I'm trying to develop this conversation with them and this relationship with them from the minute they pick up the phone with me. So I don't just say, Bullseye. You know what? One of my pet peeves, I'm going off on tangents tonight, but when you call some kind of place that has a high phone volume but is a fairly important place there where big transactions are happening, think like a doctor's office or a big business of some type, you've got to get through the phone tree. And the gal picks up the phone and she says, and you think, what? She's said it so many times she doesn't even care. She just says this mumbling cadence. But once in a while you get a company that does it really, really well. And I've never... No, that's not true. I was going to say I've never called a Chick-fil-A, but I have called a Chick-fil-A because we left something there once. And they hold their people to a really tight script. You're never going to hear somebody at a Chick-fil-A saying some kind of mumbling garbage, and they're always going to say, my pleasure, and they're going to say thank you, and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's a fantastic model to follow because everybody likes doing business at a Chick-fil-A. You might not love the food, but the people are always nice. So be presentable, be open to a conversation, and know that you're going to be in one for a couple minutes, so try not to get frustrated if you're busy. Try to just put it on hold and think of the fact that you've got to fill your schedule for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 days, and you're going to do that with that phone call. So that's kind of the attitude I have going into that. Even it's frustrating for me too. I'm in the middle of a repair and I get 5 phone calls. It's slowing my day down. But without those phone calls, 3 days from now, I'm sitting around on my hands. So I tell them the name of the company. I tell them who I am, and they're asking me how much is it to fix a small dent. I say, well, honestly, we don't have one set price for fixing dents because they are by nature random and different. So it's really tough to say one is just like another one. So if you don't mind, why don't we talk a little bit about your car, and I can get an idea of what you're dealing with, and maybe I can give you more of an educated idea about how well we can repair it and what it might cost. Who says no to that? That's the whole reason they're calling, right?
Right.
So then that's easy. They're open to that. If they're not open to that, that's fine. That wasn't my customer. They're just shopping on price. They don't care anything about their circumstances. But almost universally, people are ready to have that conversation. Some are really bad at it, and you wish they would just go away. People who are tough to communicate with. But generally, people say, that's fine. So we start out by talking about the car. Now, they're going to tell you some nonsense because they don't speak our language of vehicles, right?
Oh, yeah.
Front quarter panel.
It's on the side bumper. You hear so many things, and it's easy to get frustrated with that also, Keith. It's really easy. Right
side driver's rear door. And you don't.
It's on the roof where it opens.
So when you get that, you don't correct them. You just roll with it and say, okay, so we're talking about the passenger side. And if you've already, I left out a step, honestly. I start out and say, what kind of vehicle are we talking about? What year? And they'll always start with a basic. It's this Honda CRV. Awesome. Do you happen to know what year model it is? Usually they know or they're close. So you can just get an idea of what kind of chassis you're picturing in your mind, because a 99 CRV and a 2010 CRV are totally different animals. And the other thing you're doing is you're getting that out of the way early in the conversation, and you're finding out right away, is this a car I want to work on? Mm-hmm. Hey, great, we have different prices. Let's talk about your car. What type of car are we talking about? Oh, it's a Cadillac. Okay, great. This is a call I just got 2 days ago, by the way. Cadillac. Okay, fantastic. Do you happen to know what year and model it is? Yeah, it's an 89 Eldorado. If I didn't own the company, I probably would have just hung up. And it would have saved me 20 minutes. That was 20 minutes of my life I wish I could get back. Because I had to somehow break the news to this guy that I don't want to work on your 89 Cadillac in any way, shape, or form. And which worked out good because he just wanted to have a suction cup to pop that thing out anyway. So we put him on track with the local Home Depot, and he's going to have an extra plunger around his house. So what kind of car? Where's the damage? And then they're going to say the nonsense about the panels, and you've got to coach them with yes or no questions. Is it between the wheel and the door, or the wheel and the headlight? And that's not a yes or no question, but you're giving them only two options. Well, it's more between the wheel and the door. Okay, great. Is it right there close to the tire on the edge, or is it more towards the middle or more towards the door? Well, it's more towards the door. Okay. Do you know what happened to the car? How did it get caused? Sometimes they don't know. When they do know, the story is fantastic because you're an expert of working on cars. That's why you're in this business. And when they tell you the scenario, you can almost picture the dent perfectly already. You don't even really need to see it. You agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless they say somebody hit it in the parking lot.
Right. And sometimes they're guessing and they don't know. And that's
they have
okay.
no idea. Yeah.
Half the time you don't know. You just come out and find your car smashed. It doesn't upset me. But if they know the answer.
That answer sometimes is, and these are the ones that I love. Here, this answer is the one that you can narrow down. It's in the door. It looks like a line, but you can only see it if you get at an angle. Right. And that's the point that you know you've got damage that is 99% of the time repairable.
Yeah,
so
it is.
Yeah.
So once I know what kind of dent we're talking about, then I can tell them our average repair, which for me happens to be, I advertise our average repair as $150 for a normal door ding. And if they ask me the size, I'll say somewhere around the size of a quarter or a $half, which kind of makes me smile every time I tell somebody that, because I don't know when the last time I held a $half was. I don't have any. I mean, I eat mostly out of vending machines, and they don't take $half. They take gold dollars, and I haven't seen those for a long time either.
Right.
I hold a lot of quarters. A $half for me, it's about the size of a tennis ball. I don't know how big it is, but that's what I say. And theirs is almost always bigger, and then we go from there and we talk about their, is it on a body line, and we just have the conversation that you need to have with them, and pretend like you actually care about what is up with their dent and how we're going to go about fixing it. And when you've asked them all these questions and you know their exact scenario, and you've said a few things to let them understand that you understand that particular circumstance, you've been through it before, and you have a game plan for fixing it, all of a sudden now you are a personalized solution to their unique problem. I want you to think about that for a minute. That makes a big, big difference.
Yes, it does.
You went from before saying this is something anybody can do, and this is the price we charge. Go ahead and compare it to other people. Our price is $80 to fix a dent the size of a quarter. Well, what size of size of what? You can take the same size dent and move that thing around the car, and it takes me 5 minutes or it takes me 2 hours.
Yeah.
You're going to glue pull a rail that's a karate chop from a piece of wood, or you're going to slam it out in 20 minutes on a fender. It's totally different. Totally different.
You've got to in that conversation, you've got to, just like you said, becoming the personalized solution for their situation or for their problem, and you've got to convey that instead of this drone, this amount of money, and this is what we do, and this is how it happens. You have really got to, and Keith is an absolute genius of this. I'm getting there. You've got to become that personalized solution that he's talking about. And that is becoming the expert. And when you can envision what they're talking about just from that, and you're asking these questions, those questions, it doesn't matter how mundane you think they are as a PDR technician, those questions lead them to believe that you are the expert.
It's exactly right. And, when I talk about a personalized solution, that brings up a great point that I want to share, and that is the way the people are speaking to you, the cadence, the tone, the words they're using. You've got to pay attention to this, and you've got to speak to them in the same manner they're speaking to you.
You want to go through one real quick?
If they're talking slowly, and you're normally a real speedy, kind of fast talker, they're not going to jive with you. They're not going to hear what you're saying. They're not going to be able to communicate with you as effectively as they could if you slowed down just a little bit and spoke at the same cadence they spoke at. That's the language they speak. It's still English. It could be Spanish, I guess, if you're around here. But it's still English, but it's a different version, and you got to adapt quickly and talk to them in a manner that they want to speak to you in.
Yeah, 60-year-old lady calls
Yo, what's up? Yeah, for sure, bro. These are going to be super easy.
And even if you say yeah to around here anyway to a 60-year-old woman,
lady, you're going to be stoked.
But if a lady calls, this is around here. I'm just giving an example around here. Yes, Shane. I've got this thing in my door, and it's that, and it's always yes, ma'am. It's around here anyway, and this may vary throughout. No. I think you and I have kind of talked about this, haven't we, Keith?
Yeah, we've had a few good laughs about it because not specifically about older ladies, but just about ladies in general. We were talking on the phone and just having a normal conversation, and I don't know what we were talking about, but Shane had a customer in front of him, a lady, and he said, Mrs. Johnson, or whatever. He addressed her as Mrs. And then he said, no, ma'am. And I was laughing on the other end of the phone, and I was like, if you call a lady ma'am out here, it's because you are pulling her over and giving her a ticket. That's the only person you call ma'am. Ma'am, please step out of the vehicle. And so you asked me, well, what do you say then? And I said, well, you call them by their first name, Diane. What was your response? Made me laugh so hard.
What was my response? I don't even remember.
You said the only way you call them by the first name out there is if you're trying to sleep with them.
Did I say that?
Yes.
I'm such an idiot. Out here, though, I literally, this is going off on a little bit of a tangent, but it does go with what we're talking about here, Keith. You have to cater your response to who you're talking to. Out here, if I know people, friends of mine, that their children, if they don't call me Mr. Shane or my wife Miss Rana, and if they don't say yes, ma'am, when we ask, or yes, sir, when we ask them a question, they are scolded for that. Okay, not necessarily awesome. Scolded, but they're like, use your manners. That's not Shane. That's Mr. Shane. And it's just a little different. But again, it goes back to what you're saying. Cater yourself to that person. If I were to say yeah to a lady that is, mid-50s or up around here, I am running a great risk of offending that person instead of saying yes or yes, ma'am. And that is the God's honest truth. I
know it's true, but what I'm talking about is even more on a subconscious level. What I'm saying is, I agree with you completely, but some people don't even know that you've done anything wrong, and neither do you. But you are going to communicate better with someone if you can speak to them in a manner that they communicate. Right. And I learned a lot of this from a guy named Nicholas Boothman. I think I actually brought him up before too, but he's fantastic. I would get his book if you're going to be dealing with people face to face and trying to do business with them. How to make people like you in 90 seconds or less.
A lot of it's on body language and stuff. That's a good book. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It seems gimmicky with that title, but it opened my eyes to the way we communicate in ways other than, the particular words you use. And he talks about the words too, but really a guy who looks really deep into communication, and it's perfect for me. So because I can listen to the tape, get out of my truck, and put the stuff to work right now. And if it doesn't work or doesn't work the way I want to, in an hour and a half, I get to try it again and again and again. But it's fantastic proving ground for it. And I'm here to tell you it worked. It makes me better. So we talked a little bit about bringing up price and when and how to bring up price. And you can bring it up early if you want. There's some advantages to doing that. One is if you have a lot of high-level clientele and you ask them what the model is first and then you hit them with the price later, they have a chance of thinking you are raising the price just especially for them because they have a 2012 Mercedes.
Yep.
Right, and that can happen. So if you don't like that angle, bring it up early. But then right when you bring it up, then you go right into what kind of car. I mean, literally, our average price is $150 for a dent the size of a quarter or a half dollar. Can you tell me a little bit about your car and what's going on with it? Just like that same speed. So you're giving them no opportunity to debate your pricing. You're just getting over that quickly and then talking about their car. And when you bring it up early, there's also an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage in that once that you've established the value for a relatively small dent, they're going to probably tell you about a dent that's larger, and you've set them up for a higher price for a dent the size of a football or something like that, which if you're doing a lot of retail, you're going to get a lot of that stuff, a lot of bigger dents. There's not a lot of little tiny gravy dents around. They're there, you'll get them, but you got to be ready to fix them crushed and stuff.
What is your average size, Keith, as far as repairs on retail cars?
Oh, I was going to ask you like before or after swimming, but you're talking about repairs. Okay, my average size repairs, I haven't thought about that for a while.
I'm going to go ahead and say mine's bigger.
I'd probably say like 4 inches, 4 or 5.
Okay, yeah, that's probably...
Okay, average probably 3 to 4. Because you do some big smashes, but they're not that common. So I'd say 3 to 4.
Yeah.
3 to 4. Yeah,
4 to 5. 3 to 4.
Pretty average.
Yeah.
And I say my average repair is $150, but that's not true either. It's higher than that.
Higher than that, yeah.
Yeah, but my average repair, if everybody brought me quarter-size dents, would be $150.
Right. Yeah, but
that's not true either. That's not true. $150 is more like my minimum.
My minimum's a little lower than that, but
my actual minimum is $75, but I don't bring that up because my actual minimum dent repair for that price is almost non-existent.
Eraserhead size dent. I actually have to fix one of those next week, Keith. This thing it's unbelievably tiny.
Why did you already see it and didn't fix it on the spot then?
Okay, I fixed his car yesterday, his other car, and he was picking it up and brought me outside to show me that, and his wife and 2 kids were in there, and he wasn't prepared to do the repair on the spot. So
8 years ago, I would have argued with you. Now I have 3, and coming up here, we'll have 4 kids. I understand that's a valid argument. You just get the heck out of there. They're going bananas in the car.
No, they were being good, but I didn't want that. I didn't, because I could tell he really didn't want to do the repair right then with the 2 kids. It was snowing here, ice everywhere. He didn't want to get the kids out of the car and into my shop. You know, that's just not what he was going to do.
So, anyways, we're talking about price and in the phone script context. So we talk about 150 as my average, and we give the description of their dent, and I give them a ballpark price. I'm not going to guarantee a price, and I don't say that quote. I'm not going to guarantee a price, but I make them understand that there's a lot of factors that go into the repair. I really need to see it in person. I try to be kind of upbeat and encouraging when I'm talking to them. I don't want to be down and out and gloomy. I kind of want to be somebody that they're enjoying talking to, or at least not hating talking to. And when I bring up the price to them, I give them a quote, a ballpark quote. And whatever that is going to be, I try to be realistic, and I try to give a little bit under what I think it's going to be and a little bit over what I think it's going to be. And I want to come in right there in the middle. But what I'm doing is giving myself a little leeway to the top or to the bottom. I mean, you can always lower the price. Nobody's mad about that. But it's hard to raise it. So I make that window just a little larger than it needs to be. And I'm going to try to surprise them for the better and come in a little under the maximum. Because everybody assumes you're going to come in at the maximum. That's what I would assume, and that's what everybody else is assuming. But by giving that window a little higher, you're giving yourself some some space, because 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a little worse than you thought it was when you see it. Not 9 times. That's not true. 7 times out of 10.
That it's going to be worse than you envisioned.
Yeah. Worse than they let on.
Okay, worse than they let on. Yes, worse than I envisioned. I normally envision something much bigger than what they're telling me, just to safeguard myself.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I probably do that too. So they say, "Gosh, sometimes that's a lot for one dent." You know what? I have 3 dents. Is that $450?
Oh no! Here's where you surprise them.
Yeah, I say no, absolutely not. You know, once we're there, it just so happens that most people call us for 1 dent, and that's where our average comes from. But we certainly have a lot of customers with multiple dents, like you're describing, and it's a really fantastic deal for you, because once I'm there and I have all the tools set up, I can do subsequent dents for much, much, much cheaper than the price of just driving out to fix one. So sometimes we can do them as cheap as $75 or $50 or gosh, even $25 a piece, depending on their severity and location. But one thing's for certain is we can cut you a really competitive or aggressive, whatever verb you want to use, price when we get there in person. So pretty easily you can turn a normal door ding stop into between $150 and $400. $400 is kind of high. $150 to $300 is more common. And you know, you don't need a lot of those in a day to have a pretty good day. Three $300 cars in a day is not a bad way to make a living.
Not a bad way at all.
So I know in my neck of the woods, I don't have to have this conversation very often, but I know other guys do in the places they live, and that is, well, gosh, you know, so-and-so body shop will paint it for X amount.
I have that quite often.
What do you tell them?
What do I tell them? Yo, I'm the best. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead and paint it. You're going to be sorry. You're going to wish you brought it back to me.
There you go. Get out of here, yo. No, you explain to them how your repair is superior as far as you don't have any time down. Your car is going to be repaired in a quick manner, minutes, hours, as opposed to days, weeks. No rental, saving the paint when you go to trade it in. I mean, there are 100 different things that you can tell them that will keep them out of the body shop.
Right, and here's the fundamental difference I want you to remember. Earlier, we talked about the kind of service we provide, and we don't fix cars. Body shops fix cars. If they're T-boned and the wheels are wrapped around the axles, they fix that. They make that car drive again. That's what they do. We just make things look better. They don't do what we do. 90%
sometimes, but rarely.
Shane, 90% of body shop repairs, they look worse in one dimension after the repair. If it's just a door ding, they're going to fill it and paint it and blend something. They don't look better. They look different. I had a body shop owner. Come on.
Yes, I understand that.
I just had a body shop owner or manager have this conversation with me. Up on the wall, they had a slogan that said something like, "We'll get it back to new." And he says, "Look at this. Look what they put on my wall that I have to deal with." He's like, "This is an outright lie. I can't make anything back to new again."
Well, okay.
They can't. I can.
You can.
PDR
but we have already been over this. You're not always going to get it to 100%, and you have to sell that 90% sometime. So are you just making it different?
That's fine. But PDR is a time machine. We're going to go back in time with your original paint, and everything's going to be fine. They're going to repaint over your car. Right. It's not the same repair. It's totally different. Even close. It's like saying I'm hungry and wanting to get a sandwich.
I was simply arguing with them fixing things. There are a lot of times where they do fix minor stuff like we're talking about. Just a door ding or a scratch.
Oh, they will do their...
Where the car is still operational. That's my argument. Yes, they do that quite often.
They will do their work on it. But no way in heck is that repair in even the same category as what we do.
Right.
They're ruining that car. it's ruined. It's not the same paint anymore. It's ruined. It's not going to pass a paint gauge. For all you know, if all you had a paint gauge, you'd say the whole door was smashed in.
Completely agree.
Replaced,
Completely
right?
agree.
So
yep.
It's not so. So what I'm getting at is not the debate of whether body shops are good or not. They're great. If you hit a tree, you need a body shop, and I love them. But they don't do what we do, and they can't do what we can do. Even if the results are similar in the end, they have butchered the car to get to that point, and you haven't. So stop comparing yourself to the price the body shop would charge, and instead educate yourself on how you can help this customer understand this is so much better of a way to go. Come up with a story that you've got. If you can, people really love stories, especially if they're not too long and they make a good point. Here's mine, okay? This is a real story. When I got started in PDR, I wasn't quite sure. I didn't come from a body shop background. I started when I was 19 years old. I wasn't quite sure where my repairs fit in the pecking order of the whole universe of auto body repair. You know, I was doing work for body shops, and they were happy with me, but I still saw there were some nice shops I was working at, so the repairs looked pretty nice. Well, those same shops I was at a lot, and I started to get in pretty good with the guys in the shop, which is part of what I do. It's how I grow my business. I'm shaking hands with everybody in that shop, the painters, the preppers, everybody, the detailers, and the managers and estimators. Well, once I started making friends with these guys, the painters started to pay me to fix their cars. And I thought, wait a second. These guys can paint the car for free, and they'd rather pay me to fix it. That's when I realized that what we're doing, what we bring to the table, is powerful and unique and valuable, even to the guys who can do the other repairs for free. They'd rather pay me out of their pocket. That tells me that it's not just my opinion. It is the fact. It is the truth. This is a better repair, and everybody agrees on it.
For sure.
So just accept that and stop comparing your dang prices to the body shop. Just deal with the customer on the phone and tell them what it takes to make that car fixed. So now we've talked to him on the phone. We're still on the phone script, by the way, right? We've talked to him on the phone. We've given him a price. Now there's a huge part. If you know anything about selling, there's a huge part of this sale that has to happen for this to be considered a success. You have to close. You have to ask for the appointment. Sometimes they'll just roll over and say, when can you be here? But sometimes you've got to close them. You've got to get in front of them. I look at everything I do in my business, from the website to the phone number to the people picking up the phone. All of it is designed for me to get in front of that person in person. That's when I do my best work. That's when my guys do their best work. And that's when people are most willing and ready to spend. It's when you're there now. So you've got to close for that appointment. You got any unique things that you do when you're trying to close for an appointment? Your situation is a little different than mine. You're having people come to your shop. I'm coming out to their place.
Right. Which leaves there are some different things that I can do that you can't. Well, I don't guess that is entirely correct, but I get them here. You know, that just this the same thing as you do, as far as you getting that appointment in person. You have to narrow it down a little tighter because you don't want to be wasting a trip to 30 minutes out of your way. So I can be a little more blunt's not the term that I'm looking for, but I can be a little more forward and not worry about them, not worry about whether they're going to like the price or not. I don't say it like that, of course. Just bring it by. We'll take a look at it. We'll give you an estimate, and I'm totally cool with that because I'm a fixed location. Right. And I get a lot of people that you would normally weed out through the conversation. That's what I'm getting at.
No, and I knew that was a little different. That's why I asked you to share that. But for me,
but as far as let me finish what actually the question you asked. But yes, I bring them. Especially here lately, we're always walking outside to assess the damage. But I always say, let's step inside, and I can look at my calendar, and we can get you scheduled in when we can repair your car. And I can tell, you can tell by how quickly they start walking to the door whether they're interested in that or not. You know,
Right.
they'll always, to humor me, they'll always follow me in. And sometimes, well, I've got to call my wife, and
Right, right.
That's when you know, or talk to my wife. That's when you know. That means I'm going home, and you're probably not going to see me again. So,
Do you ask your wife when you got to take a dump too? That's not what I say.
I personally do.
That's not what I say.
Is that what you were getting at, though? As far as how
you've got to close for the appointment. Now, let me take a baby step back. When I've given them that window of pricing, I say, does that sound like something you were expecting, or does that sound like something you'd like to proceed with? And they'll usually tell you pretty honestly, well, it's a little more than I was expecting, or they'll say, oh, it's like a lot more than I was expecting. Or they'll say, oh, that's about what I was expecting. Great. Let me grab my book and we'll see when we can come out and see you. And then when you give them an option, you give them a choice between 2 times. Would you like A or would you like B? If you give them too many options, they don't know what to choose. And if you ask them questions like, well, would you like to set an appointment? Nobody really likes to set an appointment. You just say, great. That price sounds acceptable to you? Yes? Great. Let me grab my book and we'll see if we can get you in either on Monday or Tuesday.
And again, that's a little different from me also.
Yeah, it's going to be a little different because the way the logistics of how you handle the customer is different in a fixed location and a mobile.
Getting them, I do leave it a little more open, but I will, if they start to hesitate, I will make suggestions. But because they are bringing the car to me, if I'm not doing the repair right away and I bring them in the office to set up an appointment for them to bring him back, I will ask them openly, would you like to do this next week? Or if it's Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, would you like to do this this week or next week? When are you open? You're in a little different situation because you're going to their residence or their place of work where they're going to be most of the time. With them bringing it to me, I leave it open. If they look dumbfounded, like they have no idea when they can bring it in, then I will say, how about Monday? But I do leave it open for them in the beginning.
Now, I don't know what your rate is of people on the phone versus how many actually show up in person, but I would be willing to challenge you that if you gave them an appointment to be there for an estimate, you have a better chance of them following through and actually coming down.
Oh, I'm not talking about estimates.
I'm
talking about closing.
Repair times.
I'm talking about, you see, that's another thing. Your repair time, your estimate and actual repair appointment are one and the same. Mine are oftentimes 2 different things.
Yeah. So I know it's fun to have this debate, fixed location versus mobile and how you do business. No, it's not. But from the mobile perspective, I want you to remember you are going to try to do that repair every time you go out somewhere.
Right.
Do not go out with the intention of giving an estimate and coming back at a later date.
That's horrible business.
Oh, it's terrible. You've just driven twice as far for the same thing. So give them a time when you have some time to do the repair. You don't have to tell them that they're committing to it. In fact, I tell them the opposite. But a nice little thing I say that makes me a lot of money is, okay, we're going to come by at this date, at this time, and we're going to have a look at the car. If you're happy with the price that I determine is necessary to fix your car, if you're happy with that price, I'll be ready to do the repair for you right there on the spot. I just need to know if that's an option or not, because if it is, I sure want to be able to tell you yes and have that time available to fix your car. So that's a wonderful little question I came up with a few years ago, and it basically flops people wide open like a book in front of you, and they will get out. They'll give you a crystal ball answer right there that if you're going to do business or not. They'll say, yes, if I'm happy with the price, I'd like you to have some time to do the repair. But you just basically put that one in the bank right there. And if you can't close them in person, it's because the price is bad. They don't like it. you just renegotiate on the price until they're happy. And if they're not going to do business, they tell you that. Well, no, I think we just need to stick with the estimate this time. Mm-hmm. You say, fantastic. And you hang up and you put a little note in that appointment that all of a sudden this is the lowest priority thing you can do. And if you get another job at the same time, you bump that guy and you take the job. That's my system. That's what I have my guys do. That's what I do. And I promise you it makes me a lot of money. Just need to marinate on that a little bit. That's a big one. Yeah. That was a big thing for me to bring up and a big thing for me to incorporate. And a lot of guys I hear frustration in their mobile PDR business because they drive around and look at a bunch of garbage, or they fall back to their cell phone and say, send me pictures, send me pictures.
It's because they get frustrated with going out and they get frustrated because they don't know how to set that appointment right.
I don't know how to talk to you, so can you send me pictures? But every time you hang up the phone, you're giving them a chance to go away and never come back. They're saying, hi, I want to do business with you. You say, great. The only thing you have to do if you want to do business with me is to do a little job. Here's how you do it. You figure it out on your own and send me some pictures. And some of them it's easy. But some of them, your 58-year-old ladies, it's not easy. They go away forever. So don't rely on the photos. If you want photos, ask for it after you close the appointment. Then you can say, oh my gosh, I got your photos. I can't fix that. Unfortunately, we've got to cancel our appointment. But make the appointment, then get the photos if you want the photos. It's so simple to me, but people screw it up so freaking bad. Don't give them a job. Get the appointment, then give them a job. So let's talk about everything went smoothly. You got the appointment. You showed up. Now it's time to price the car. I have this down to a system that I use, and I'm confident it's the best system I can use. And it, again, makes me a lot more money than I would be making if I didn't use the system. And guys, we're going a little over on time today. We usually try to stick to about an hour, but this is the core of what makes me the living that I make. Which is a fantastic living, and I'm happy doing it, and I like doing the work. It's a fantastic place to be for me. And this is the core of how and why it works for the retail side of my business. So I'm not going to skip through it and jump around on it. I want to try to give you everything that I do so you can put it to work. But if I leave out half these steps, you're making brownies without eggs. So when you get to the appointment, if everything's perfect, you have a chance to look at the car before the customer comes out. It doesn't always happen because it's in a garage, but if you can, that's great. Look around the car yourself. Walk around it. Get familiar with the damage that they're calling you about, and get familiar with the damage that hasn't been talked about yet. And then when they come out, you know what? Something I glossed over earlier, but it's important when you're doing face-to-face business is your appearance. What are you wearing? A lot of guys butcher this really bad too. Are you wearing a freaking sleeveless shirt and workout pants? Not right now, Shane, but like when you go to work.
Only when I'm chasing hell. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Probably not a joke.
No, I still actually look presentable when I'm even on a corporate job. Maybe not professional, but at least presentable.
So I wear a white polo shirt, buttoned up, not all the way, but 2 out of the 3 buttons are buttoned. It has my name on it. It has my company logo on it. I wear usually jeans or shorts in the summer, springtime. Like running shoes that are relatively clean, if not perfect. And you're a dealer's choice on facial hair, but if I'm running the company, I say none or very well trimmed. And that may seem silly to some guys, but all these little things add up to establish your credibility with this stranger in the first 5 seconds you meet them. And if you're wearing workout pants and a camo shirt or friggin' affliction shirt or whatever, you're weird and you're not credible, and they're not going to trust you. The whole transaction is going to be harder. So if you think of the little getup that you have to wear as stupid or as a costume, just understand that it's a costume that's going to make you money. So put it on. So when you approach them, You have open body language. You shake their hand and look them in the eye and tell them it's nice to see them, nice to meet them. And you get to looking at the car. Now, the one you've paid attention walking around the car, right? You've looked at all the dents and you've made a mental note of them, if not a paper note. And you know about the one they called you about. I call that the anchor dent. That is the one that bugged them enough that they picked up the phone and they wanted to call you to get it fixed. So unless they tell you otherwise, this is the only dent you're talking about, and it's the only one you're negotiating about, okay? Once you settle on a price for this anchor dent, then once they're happy, you say something to the effect of, you know, I noticed you had a couple other little dings around the car. If you're interested, since I'm here working on this big dent or this ugly dent or whatever term you want to use, I can cut you a fantastic deal on these other dents while I'm here. And you can price them ridiculously low, and here's why. They're going to be fast, probably, if they're not that noticeable in the first place. And if you had a $250 or $300 repair on one dent, and you did 5 or 6 or 7 other dings for another $75 or $100, as a percentage, that is a ridiculously high amount of money for an upsell. A third, 33%, if you went from 300 and added 100. What other business can you increase the revenue by 33%?
Not many.
Just with one question. And this is the kind of little stuff that adds up at the end of the month, changes your world from a pretty darn good month to a ridiculously good month by chipping away little by little. $50 here, another $100 here, and man, it makes a difference at the end of the day. Just do some numbers. If you haven't already done your numbers for what you need to make in a day, what you need to make in a week, in a month, add $50 a day or $100 a day or $200 a day, and watch how that number changes. It's startling if you don't already know that number. I know the numbers, and you probably do. I hope you do. But if you don't, your eyes are going to be open after that. But try to upsell every single retail job on something. Do you do that at your shop, Shane?
Oh, yeah. I've done a lot more lately than I did a couple of years ago, of course. But yes, I will walk around the car, and it is, like you said, there's an anchor dent. There's a reason they came to you, and it's normally not 4 dents. It's normally one that they're really concerned about, because that's the one that I get it all the time. I see that thing every time I get in the car.
Right.
You know, but then when you point out a few more, and like you said, it's and they see they have a perceived value there because you're doing it for cheaper now. They most of the time people think when they call you how much, and you give them that ballpark range if you choose to do so on the phone. The number one question I get after that is that per dent? And
now,
then
let me stop you for just a second, Shane. It's almost imperative to give that pricing window over the phone, especially if you're running a mobile business, because if you don't even understand that you guys are playing in the same ball game, you're going to drive out for nothing. And some guy's going to say, "Oh, I was expecting it to be like $40 or $50." Mm-hmm. And then you get upset and you think, this guy's an idiot. But he didn't have the problem. You had the problem. You drove out sight unseen without telling the guy what did he even need to expect.
Right. And
put yourself in his shoes pick something that you've never had done. I have never had a tree removed from my yard. I don't know if that's $200 or $1,000. If I just call some tree removal guy and say, come out and take this tree out, I don't know what to expect.
Right.
And they don't know what to expect either. So if the guy says, yeah, we remove trees, just so you know, the average tree removal is between $200 and $700, and it depends really on the size of the trunk, blah, blah, blah. Now I have an idea what to expect. And right there I might say, whew, you know what? I'm just going to blow it up with an M80. Thanks for the information. Or, hey, that's great. I thought it was going to be $1,200. Yeah, come on out. When can you be here? But that's important. It's really important. If your customers are giving you problems, assume it's your problem, and you didn't do something right. You've got to fix it. Man, you know what? let's just assume you close the deal at this point and you get the job, because I got a lot of follow-up stuff that I like to do with my customers. But that we got you all the way from picking up the phone to talking to the people, getting the appointment, getting there, doing the repair, and upselling on some other dents. And that's a lot to chew on. So I want you to work on it and go back and write these steps down. And I can absolutely promise you'll make more money if you treat this like a system, you treat it like a business, like it should be, and stop pulling stuff out of your rear end, but put some things down on paper on purpose. You're going to make some more money. And that's what this thing is about. It's about getting better, making more money.
That's right. So we can afford them yatchets that we're talking about buying.
It would not be a complete episode of the PDR College Podcast if we did not tell you about a tool that you need to have to do these magic repairs that we're talking about. What tool are we talking about this time, Shane?
The extra wide whale tails from Dentcraft.
Fantastic. Relatively new, I think. Came out last year or something like
this
that?
is coming into their second year. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Awesome. Freaking awesome tool. These things are fantastic. A little thicker than your typical whale tail, as far as the thickness of the whale, and wide. But man, these things have a ton of drive.
Why do you want drive? So a lot of guys don't understand. As a contrast, we'll talk about the tool that we highlighted last time, which was the shaved tool set, or that was two episodes ago, I think. But that's a brace tool as well, but it's very flexible. Mm-hmm. These extra wide whale tails are not so flexible. They're pretty rigid
by design.
Right. And the tip is wide. It's 2 inches wide. Why do you need a lot of drive? Why do you need a whale tail that big?
Well, there are lots of reasons for why that big, hanging over the edge of a brace when the dent is a little farther outside of the brace than you normally would. But as far as drive, when you get in a brace that has a little extra clearance between the skin and the brace itself, you want that extra drive, where a normal whale tail will sometimes, or that brace tool we were just speaking of, Keith, where that tool will normally, once you get it to a certain point, and this is hard to illustrate in words, but once you get that tool turned to a certain point, you're losing a lot of the drive there. With these things, they're so wide and so thick and have so much drive, you're not losing anything, because the contact is, the angle is...
No, I can explain it pretty easily. You're in a brace, and the brace flexes a little bit, the skin flexes a little bit, and when you get to almost perpendicular in the panel with the whale tail, you're not prying off of anything
right.
anymore. You're standing it up on its edge. These things are so wide, you're never going to stand it on its edge. You're always going to be prying against something. And I'll tell you where I really love them is on aluminum hoods.
Mm-hmm.
Because the aluminum flexes a little bit, and these things have the power to put the pushes right where you want them, and the rigidity to push through the glue and get it back into those back corners when sometimes you're fighting a tiny, skinnier tool. Harder to do.
Especially on Infinity G series cars, those things.
Yeah.
Cars like that, those aluminum hoods, these wide whale tails work fantastic in areas like that.
I'll tell you where else I like to use mine is in the front middle section of a front door, right near the fender.
Oh yeah.
Inside the brace right mm-hmm. there. There's a lot of great brace tools to work in there, but that one is one of my favorites. If everything else isn't working, that one's going to get it. Great tool. So they call those, what do they call them? They call them the
extra wide whale tails.
Yeah, with an X, not EX.
Right.
Extra wide.
Yeah.
And they have a set with an 8-inch, 14-inch, 24-inch, 34-inch, 44, and 54. 6 pieces. It's $439.95 on dentcrafttools.com.
It's a good deal for how many whale tails?
6.
6 of those extra wide whale tails for $440, basically. So
yep.
you said that's an awesome deal.
If I had to buy 2, if I didn't want to buy the whole set,
24.
I would probably buy the 8 and the 24.
24 would be, if I had to buy one, it would be the 24. What are the sizes you said? 8, and what's up from the 8?
14.
14. Yeah, I would do 8 and 24 also. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't, the 8. I was going to say if you don't do a lot of hail, the 8 is not really going to be your buddy, but it's not true. You get plenty of dents on hoods and deck lids and stuff that are not hail, but you need the same type of equipment. So get yourself some extra wide whale tails. You'll be happy about them. Promise you that. I think this about wraps up this episode. We talked about how to deal with your retail customers once you've got more of them coming to you, how to get those appointments, how to get those sales, and how to make the money.
That's right. Making the money. That's what it's all about.
All right, fellas. We'll see you next time on the PDR College Podcast.
Get better.